Hey guys, this is Lawrence of the Ketones and Coffee Podcast. Make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any of this great content. I'm so excited for this. We have a very special guest on our podcast. Our guest today is a highly qualified nutritional therapist, fitness coach, and the owner of Primal Wellness. He has a passion for helping individuals optimize their mental and physical health, improve athletic performance, and achieve their desired body composition. Additionally, our guest serves as the CEO of Life Health and Wellness Center, a natural and holistic mental health clinic based in Las Vegas, Nevada. What sets our guest apart is that he has personally experienced challenges with mental health and has successfully recovered through his own self-study and training as a nutritional therapy practitioner. He is committed to helping others achieve their wellness goals and improve their overall quality of life. I'm so excited for this. I'm here with Asher Adelman. Asher, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here with you.
Asher, it's great to have you on the show, and I'm excited to have this opportunity to speak with you because as somebody who personally had my own battles with depression and experienced the healing effects of keto and carnivore, I'm happy for our listeners today, and we got a good one coming for this, guys. Let's jump into it. I believe, in the power of the evidence-based nutritional therapy, as I experienced it firsthand, and I want to bring in experts like you to help our listeners learn about the benefits and how it may help them achieve their own wellness goals for themselves. So, looking forward to hearing about your story and journey. With that in mind, our goal today is to, obviously raise awareness and educate our audience about the other effective treatments that other than medications, right? Asher, your health is, phenomenal today. I've seen the pictures, compared to when you were in your 30s. You credit it to your lifestyle now. However, I know your journey hasn't always been easy. In your interviews in the past, you've shared that you've struggled with anxiety and severe depression for, early in life, and it eventually became so debilitating that you experienced daily panic attacks. But now you're helping others relieve their symptoms and through your methods, and I'd love to hear more about how it all came about. Can you share some of the backstory with us?
Yeah, sure. So I have experienced anxiety and depression at different levels ever since I can remember, ever since childhood. I had some childhood trauma, which, I grew up with, and I didn't know anything else. So I thought that's what everybody experienced, and I thought that was normal. And I was able to function more or less up until I would say I was in my 30s. And I've always been interested in fitness and working out and exercising and eating well. And I've always been interested in nutrition. And I thought that I was, during my teens and my 20s and early 30s, I thought that I was eating a pretty healthy, nutritious diet. And I was mostly, for the most part, on a Mediterranean style diet. So lots of, chicken breast, fish, lots of vegetables, lots of olive oil, real cheeses, things like that. And interestingly, I had developed during my 20s and 30s a number of chronic health conditions, which were very unpleasant, which I didn't expect to happen to me, especially at such an early age. And as I mentioned, during my 30s, my depression and anxiety, which had been okay and manageable throughout my 20s, became worse and worse and started getting worse and worse. At some point during my early 30s, I started having panic attacks. They started off, fairly infrequently, so once every few months. But then as time went on, they increased in their severity and in their frequency to, eventually they ended up happening on a daily basis, once a day, a few times a day, and were happening at work, during work meetings, during calls and meetings and conversations with clients and coworkers. So yeah, it really became something very debilitating and very, really disrupted my ability to function. And that was really kind of when I hit rock bottom, when I wasn't able to function on a day-to-day basis. I had to quit my job at the time. That was a job that I absolutely loved, so it was, it was a bummer having to do that, but I just couldn't function. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that got me eventually, after a long process, to reevaluate and look at my nutrition, how I'm nourishing and fueling my body and my brain. And fortunately, that ended up being what helped correct and basically end my panic attacks, my anxiety, and my depression. And I felt at the time, gosh, I'd have been in my late 30s. So in my late 30s, I felt what it felt like to not feel any anxiety, to not feel depressed, to feel like you're content, in a good mood, which was a pretty cool
Mm.
feeling.
Mm. Man, that is pretty outstanding what you were able to accomplish and how you were able to turn that corner. Um, but what's interesting to me was, you talked about this on your other interviews, that you mentioned despite you know undergoing, you did say that you underwent therapy for an amount of years, and you didn't experience any improvement in your symptoms, which I myself, I went through therapy as well. But what caught my attention was when your therapist suggested that you take anti-anxiety medications, and you were strongly against it. And I'm curious to know what your thought process was at the time, and why you were so opposed to taking any medication to help with your condition. Because I was too. I actually went through about 4 to 5 therapists, and every time they suggest it to me, I immediately run and search on Google another therapist, because I am so afraid of it. And I didn't know at the time why I was so afraid of it, but I didn't want to uh, take any medications for it. So, how did you view that at the time, when you're processing that?
Yeah, so a good question. And yeah, I was in therapy for a while, about 4 years. I was seeing a
Mm,
therapist on a weekly basis. I really like my therapist. He was brilliant, very experienced, very good at being a therapist. But like many other people, the therapy didn't fix or correct or reduce or eliminate my anxiety. So my
mm,
anxiety levels were still the same. I understood, what might have triggered and what might be exacerbating my anxiety. But the 4 years of therapy did nothing to help improve my anxiety levels, nor did it do anything to help reduce the amount, the severity, and the frequency of the panic attacks that I'd been experiencing. And I'd figured, like most people, that therapy is how you get rid of anxiety, depression, etc. But that's not really the goal of therapy. The goal of therapy is to help one cope with their feelings of
mm,
anxiety, to cope with their feelings of depression,
mm,
um, to make it more manageable, but not to end the depression and the anxiety. So that was a bit of a disappointment for me because, again, my anxiety and my panic attacks were going in the opposite direction. They were worsening, even though I was in
mm,
weekly therapy for 4 years. And yeah, my therapist had suggested, after a number of years, after he saw that I wasn't getting better, that things were getting worse, and that I had quit my job, and so on and so forth. So he had recommended that I go on anti-anxiety medications. And a lot of people with anxiety, so you have irrational or maybe somewhat rational fears of different things, and so medications, pharmaceuticals, chemicals were one of those things that
mm, mm.
that I didn't like the sound of. I
Yep.
didn't want any chemicals interfering with how my brain was functioning. I had already felt like my brain wasn't functioning well, like I wasn't in control of what was happening to my brain, and I didn't want any other elements to
Mm,
impact how my brain was functioning, and to possibly impact my brain functioning in a negative manner, which, I knew and know, as a lot of other people do, that medications don't always work well for everyone.
Mm.
A good number of people experience negative and unpleasant side effects. Some of these
Yeah.
medications can be addictive, so you can, become dependent on them and are very difficult to come off of. So it was those things, and I guess just intuition where I didn't want
Yeah.
to, put those chemicals into my brain, where I was, adamantly opposed to it, and I'm glad now that I was opposed to it. And but that's not to say that I didn't try medication. So I did, as a lot of other people do, I did try and manage my anxiety through self medication, through mostly alcohol. And so I drank an excessive amount of alcohol during that period of time, those years, and just mainly because the only time when I felt normal, when I felt um, calm and relaxed and happy and content, and not anxious, was after I had a few drinks. So when you're
Mm.
feeling anxious and stressed out and having panic attacks and depressed all the time, you want a little bit of you want at least a temporary break from feeling like that
Yeah.
every so often, and that's where alcohol came into play for me. So and obviously alcohol, affects our brain functioning, is not advisable, as a long term or as a solution for anxiety or depression. But a lot of people, including myself, you feel
Mm.
so bad all the time and you feel so hopeless, and so you want those couple of hours of feeling normal, of feeling relaxed. So yeah, but with regards to pharmaceuticals, for some reason I was just very against it. And one of the things I remember, I believe it was one of the antidepressants, or a class of antidepressant medications, where one of the many possible side effects are suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation. And
Mm-hmm.
like, why do I want to take a medication that might make me feel suicidal? Like, it just, an
Yeah.
antidepressant medication that makes you feel suicidal. That seems so ironic and crazy. But yeah, I knew in my gut that I didn't want to touch psych meds, and yeah, I didn't agree to go on them.
Thank you for sharing that. That brings light into this situation, and it happens so many times. And it may be, you know, a lot of people or prescribers prescribe medications without, um, you know, knowing what um, they know the cause. They let you know what the side effects might be, but they could be over prescribing, I believe. And I've had a psychiatrist on the show tell me that these medications are great for emergency situations, but it's not a long term solution for anybody. And I commend you for just talking about your story, because that is huge for a lot of people. That just hearing that from you, having to go through that, and to talk to me today and talk about how you were able to um, basically have your anxiety and depression dissipate. Again, when I was going through it, I would, whenever my psychiatrist suggested medication, I would run away from it. And true story. And I think, yeah, I guess, I went through 5 therapists before I got to talk to somebody who practices CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And again, I was so afraid of medication, and looking back now, it's so clear why I'm afraid of it. But back then, I didn't know why I was so afraid. But did you feel like it was giving up? Because for me, if I took that medication, it feels like giving up for me. Like, searching for other alternatives before resorting to any medication for me is the first step. But to me, having to take medications is giving up. In my situation, did you feel that way?
For me, it wasn't. I don't think it was necessarily like giving up, because I was in such a bad place and really not
Yeah.
functioning, not able to work, not able to support my family, and I was pretty hopeless. So
Mm-hmm.
I was very desperate for a solution, even though I was, like I said, hopeless, and I didn't think, at that time. I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to get used to being like this, to feeling like this, and I guess I won't be able to hold down a job ever again. and probably have
Mm.
to go on disability, and I don't know how I'm going to support my family. But that was the thought. But I knew at the time I didn't want to take medications. It was just something. It was just a gut feeling. I didn't want any of the side effects, negative side effects. I didn't want, and part of the anxiety, so you worry about stuff. And even though, it's said that not everybody has experiences side effects from medications, and that medications are beneficial for for a lot of people who take them. But I knew that I knew and I know that there are a lot of people who don't experience benefits or improvements with
Mm.
medication, and that there are a number of people that experience negative side effects. There are a lot of people that medications will help for a while and then they'll stop helping at some point,
Yeah.
or the body develops a tolerance, so you keep having to increase the dosage. So, I knew all this, and even though there was a chance that the medications might work for me and might continue to work for me, and there's a chance that I might not have experienced any negative side effects. But in my anxious state of mind back then, I figured that, okay, I'm going to be the worst case scenario. And so whatever side effects can happen, I'm probably going to experience the worst side effects. And I'm probably not going to experience too much of a benefit. So I figured that's just going to be, I'm going to end up in an even worse situation
Mm.
if I
Yeah.
take the medication. So that was kind of my thinking with regards
Yeah.
to that. Not that it's a, giving up per se, but it's just that, okay, it's probably not going to help me, and I'm probably going to get all these crazy bad side effects. That's going to be an additional problem that I'm going to have to
Mm.
deal with on top of the
Yeah.
anxiety and the depression.
Yeah, and on top of that, just knowing that the withdrawal syndromes that comes after that, right? It's hard to get off those things.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so lifestyle changes. So during my struggles with depression, I was open to trying anything and everything. And I said this: if we would go back, and if you had suggested anything to relieve my symptoms without resorting to medication, I did everything. I explored various, Asian treatments, tried acupuncture, changed my approach to self care, began meditating. This is when I was learning about, self development and, push myself in the gym. But nothing seemed to work, as well as changing my diet. When I changed my diet, everything changed. My energy levels went up. Um, you know, my focus, and then my depression, anxiety, just non-existent. Um, it was truly a life changing discovery for me. How about you? Can you tell us a little bit more about how you came to this realization and how it transformed your life? Through diet.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was in a pretty bad place, and after the 4 years of therapy, and basically, I mean, I probably would have continued if money wasn't hadn't been an issue, but it was
Mm.
costing me a lot of money, paying $100 or so dollars every week for 4 years, and not experiencing any improvements or seeing any results. So, and basically, me being out of work, being unemployed, so I had to stop the therapy also. And so, like I said, I was in a pretty hopeless place and thought that, there wasn't going to be anything that was going to help me. This was just my brain was messed up, my body's messed up, and, out of control. And, but still, I went online and I was, I'd be reading and looking at things that might help relieve anxiety or improve anxiety. I wasn't looking to end it or to eliminate it. I was looking to get it back to where it was before, where I could function and I
Mm.
could go to work, and I just had where I would just have a heightened level of anxiety, but still be able to function, still be able to work. That's what I was hoping for and looking for. And so fortunately, and I don't remember, this is probably 11, 12 years ago, so it's hard to remember exactly. But it's probably a number of months of like reading and researching and looking for resources online. And I came across a few web pages or articles about that talked about how some people have. So where it talked about how some people have sensitivities to some different foods, and where those sensitivities can cause those foods to exacerbate and worsen our anxiety levels. and they recommended removing some of those foods. So when I read that, like just like you, I was in a very desperate place. I was willing to try anything other than psych meds, but I was willing to try anything else. So certainly removing some foods from my diet was a no brainer. I did that, and lo and behold, within a pretty short period of time, my anxiety and mood got better and better and better and better. My panic attacks stopped happening very, very soon afterwards, probably within, a matter of a few weeks. And like I said, this is, 11 or so years ago. And so in those 11 or so years, I have not experienced a single panic attack. I've not felt a bit of anxiety or depression. So at the time, I was in my late 30s, and was really interesting and really
Yeah.
cool to feel what it feels like to be happy and content all the time, every day, because I'd never felt that way ever since I can remember.
Mm, man, that's it's great, just great to hear, because a lot of people, go through life with depression all of their lives, and to hear that from somebody who's suffered for years, and say you relieve yourself of these symptoms, is nothing short of a miracle, right? They don't talk about this mainstream, right? They don't push this message, but if you hear it from a podcast, a reputable source, somebody who actually reversed their condition, there's hope. And you, like I said, you went online, tried it yourself, um, probably didn't believe it at first, and like you said, you only wanted to go back to the way it was, so that you could hold a job. But it turns out, look at what happened, right? You turned the corner, became a nutritional therapist, became a fitness coach, and now you're helping people, you know, do the same. And isn't that just a miracle for a lot of people? There's hope, right?
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, it's been unbelievable, and like I said, I was certainly not very hopeful and not very optimistic, but again, I was so desperate, I was willing to try just about anything, and so I tried it, and I was very pleasantly surprised that it actually
mhm,
worked, and yeah, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who are currently experiencing anxiety and or depression and are feeling very pessimistic and very negative. Nothing's going to be able to help me, but for me, I was in a very bad place. I had extreme chronic depression and anxiety for decades, and nothing helped. And I thought that I would never be able to not feel anxious and
yeah,
depressed. And so, if it's sounds like a cliche, but if it worked for me, I think it can work for just about anyone.
mhm,
Because I was a train wreck. I was really bad, and like now, when I think about back then, it's hard. It seems like a kind of like a movie. Like it doesn't seem like it
yeah,
was real.
yeah,
Like when I think about that period of time, like I that wow, that really happened. Like I was really
yeah,
uh, in that in that situation, in that state of mind, and people who know me now and see how calm and relaxed and so forth I am, they can't believe that I used
yeah,
to have anxiety and depression. Like nobody now can believe that I used to be like that. And so yeah, like one of my biggest messages is there is hope, and that's one of the nice things. Regardless
mhm,
of how severe or chronic or long lasting your anxiety and or depression has been, no matter how debilitating it is
yeah,
or has been, you can improve it, and you can improve it permanently and naturally, um, without needing to resort to medications. And that's because for most people with anxiety and depression, the issue is a brain functioning issue. The brain's having a
mhm,
difficult time functioning because it's malnourished and inflamed due to
mm,
us not eating a nutrient rich diet, and due to us eating processed inflammatory foods, which are inflaming the brain. So it's very, like I said, it's
Mhm.
very possible, and it's so
Mhm.
the one message I'd like everybody to take home is there is hope. Like nobody should feel like they're hopeless, and I'm confident in saying this
Yeah.
because not only because what I've experienced personally, but from working with numerous clients over the past several years who have been in very severe um, situations of anxiety and depression, also not functioning at all, people with very, very severe anxiety and depression who are very hopeless, just as I was. And it works for them too. It's worked for them too. And I mean, they're all
Yeah.
extremely pleasantly surprised at how quickly they feel better and how quickly their symptoms go away and they improve. And so I that's why I'm confident in saying this because I've seen it happen over and over and over again with people, and even people that I think the most interesting cases are with people whose anxiety and depression are rooted in or triggered by trauma and PTSD. So,
Mm.
I think with PTSD and trauma, the overall or the general consensus is okay, they need therapy. They need to talk to somebody. They need to, uh, learn to cope with what happened to them, their traumatic experience,
Mm.
and only that will help them move forward. So I've worked with a bunch of people who have been through horrific traumatic experiences, like some of the worst traumas that you can imagine can happen to someone, and who have either tried therapy for years, have tried medications for years, none of that has worked, or people who don't want to do therapy because they don't want to talk about and relive the traumatic experience that they've been through,
Mhm.
and even for them, it's worked amazingly well. Again, because you have to differentiate between the immediate trigger and the root cause of anxiety and depression.
Mhm.
PTSD, trauma, loss, whether it's loss of a loved one, a job, a relationship, et cetera. Those are triggers, but they're not the root cause, and that's why you
Mm.
can have people who will go through this a similar traumatic experience or loss and not deal with anxiety and chronic anxiety and debilitating anxiety and depression. Obviously, anyone who goes through a situation like that, it's horrible and so forth. But there are a number of people that are able to continue
Mhm.
functioning in their day-to-day lives, and their day-to-day functioning is not impaired by anxiety and depression. Whereas other people who've been through a similar type of traumatic experience do experience debilitating anxiety and depression and are not able to function. And the reason why is again because the trauma wasn't the root cause.
Yeah.
The root cause is again for most people, the vast majority of the people, malnourishment and inflammation of the brain.
We'll talk about that in a second here, but I love what you said there. Everything else is great. Just talking about that and how there's really hope for a lot of people. The biggest thing you said there is that you thought that you were never gonna feel better, right? And now you're here telling people when you were in that moment, it's easy to feel hopeless, right? Because when you're in it, it feels like you're in it forever. You never. I was in it. I thought I was never. You tell me it's gonna get better. No, it's not. I can feel it. I'm here. It's. You feel like it's never gonna go away, but it will, right? A lot of counts. If you're in this community of carnivore keto in this community, there's a lot of people that have turned the corner from major depressions to their depression and symptoms of depression going away. And you're here today telling us that it is possible and there's hope. You yourself said that you only wanted to go back to the way it was, but now you're here thriving, fitness coach and nutritional therapist, helping a lot of people. And you talk about PTSD and all of these other severe mental illness traumas, and you said that it even helped those people with their situation, and I love that for people. Hearing that, if I heard that from when I was depressed, I would jump on this. I wouldn't even think twice on you know trying anything, just about anything. Um, Now you talked about malnourishment and how that affects mood disorders per se. How does malnourishment? Can you elaborate a little bit? How does malnourishment of the brain contribute to these disorders?
Yeah, so a lot of times, or a lot of people don't realize or forget or don't really think about the fact that our brain is an organ in our body. And just like all of our other organ systems, it has requirements for different nutrients that it needs on an ongoing basis. So different vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids that it needs in order to fuel its functioning and enable its functioning. So through, again, poor diet and digestive functioning issues caused by and exacerbated by poor diet, so basically gut dysbiosis and intestinal permeability, that's how we can be in a state of malnourishment. That's how our brain can end up being starved of various nutrients that it needs. And a starved, malnourished brain has a very hard time functioning optimally. And not to say that everybody who has a malnourished and inflamed brain is going to experience anxiety or depression. There are a number of different things that one can experience in this type of situation. Anything from like ADD type issues, focus, concentration, to cognitive type issues, to issues with memory, to to migraines, to insomnia. So these are all like, and that's the thing is I consider anxiety and depression now and the other mental health symptoms to be similar to pain. So what is pain? Why do we feel pain? Well, we feel pain. It's a message that our body is sending us that a part of our body is being damaged and therefore is in pain, so that we'll fix what's causing the damage, what's causing the pain, so that we no longer experience the pain. So, and the example I like to give to clients is if I put my hand on a hot surface and my hand is burning, right? And because my hand is being damaged, and so my hand's in pain. And why am I feeling the pain in my hand? It's a message that my body's sending me or telling me that, okay, look, your hand is on a hot surface, it's being damaged. And why am I getting this message? So that I'll stop what's causing the pain, so that I'll stop the root cause. The root cause in this, and the best course of action in this situation is to take my hand off the hot surface. So that's why I'm feeling the pain. That's why I'm feeling the symptom. But the problem is nowadays that what many people do, which is not an optimal solution, is they'll call their doctor and say, "Hey doc, I got, my hand's on a hot surface and it's in a lot of pain, it's hurting. What should I do?" The doctor either says, "Okay, well, hold on, don't move. Let me send you over a prescription and for a painkiller. And you can take the painkiller and your hand won't hurt anymore." That's one example, and that's what basically psych meds do. And the other one is, okay, well, hold on, don't do anything, don't move. I'm going to forward you onto a psychotherapist that I know, and they're going to talk to you and teach you how to cope with the pain and deal with the pain. And so hopefully it won't bother you as much as it currently is. And that's the psychotherapy option. And that's why, even though it's unfortunate that most people only know about psychotherapy and medications. And while they can be beneficial for some people in some situations, some circumstances, for many people, they're not, like such as myself and yourself, they're not beneficial and they don't really help. And again, client after client after client, most of my clients have been in therapy before. I've been in therapy for years before. Many of them have been on medications, some of them for years or decades, and they're still coming to see me to seek my help. So obviously the therapy and our medications haven't fixed the issue because, again, they're not addressing the root cause. So again, getting back to the example of the hot surface, I need to take my hand off the hot surface, which will end the pain, which will stop that message that my body is giving me that something's not right, that something's being damaged, and problem resolved. So that really is it is
Mm-hmm.
why, in my opinion, we experience anxiety and depression, headaches, migraines, focus issues, ADHD issues. Is our body's trying to send us a message, but and we need to listen to the message and fix what's causing the issue instead of looking to either cope with
Yeah.
or try and resolve a symptom without addressing the root cause.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny. It's just laughable, right? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm gonna borrow that and talk to because it's nice to have that type of analogy to explain to people easier how it works, and having those simple stories that you could tell like that. It's so easy to just understand what's going on, right? It's so funny because you hear those things a lot, right? And why can't we just um, deal with the root cause, right? When I couldn't sleep for 3 straight days, what did they give me? They gave me a sleeping pill, right? And that's not my problem, right? Looking back, that wasn't my problem. I was stressed. I was depressed, and I was in panic mode that I couldn't get to sleep. And people are going through that. And if you're somebody if you're just a little bit close-minded, Asher, imagine this: if you're a little close-minded, that you didn't went through this life change that you did when you found out about these inflammatory foods. If you're close-minded, you wouldn't be here today, right? And there's a
Right,
lot of
no.
people. There's a lot of people like that, right? They heard something, they didn't try it because they couldn't understand how could that help me, right? And they weren't open-minded enough to try other things. And if you're that person, then you wouldn't be able to experience, because if you wait for the government to tell you the right things, you'll be waiting for a long time, right? And you have to realize that nobody's gonna go and save you, right? Once you realize that nobody's coming to save you, not the government specifically, coming out with Lucky Charms as healthier than steak recently, I tell you, then you would wait for a long time. You really have to take control of your own health, and that's what Asher did a few years ago, and now he's thriving, right? From not being able to sustain a job to helping a lot of people now to reverse the conditions. Such an amazing story, right? And it's happening to a lot of people. You just got to be open-minded. Yeah, this has been great. And I'm sure my listeners would be eager to learn more about how they can improve their own health through dietary changes. Can you, Asher, can you walk us through the framework you use for incorporating a focus on nutrition in your treatment for your patients?
Yeah, certainly. And before I get to that, I wanted to add that it is one of the challenges, probably the biggest challenge of what I'm doing, is convincing people to take the notion that diet impacts our mental health and mental functioning, to take that seriously, because I get a lot of reactions of like, what? Like, nobody, when they come in, they come into a mental health clinic to seek help for their anxiety, the depression, the ADHD, or whatever. Nobody expects to be asked what they're eating, or to be told that diet and how they're eating has anything to do with their brain functioning. And they're expecting to either get sent to a therapist or to a psychiatrist to get medications, and so it's a lot of educating. It's a lot of educating about why nutrition is important to brain functioning and to mental health, and there's a lot of people that so I would say a lot of the clients fall into two categories, main categories. One of them would be people who are just eating like junk food, fast food, real garbage, processed foods, and they kind of realize, okay, yeah, that's not the best idea in terms of maintaining and improving one's health. And then the other group of people are those who are aware and cognizant of nutrition, and they believe they're trying to eat healthy, and they believe they're eating healthy. And so they'll tell me, oh, no, the nutrition doesn't, that's not relevant to me. That doesn't have anything to do with me. I eat
Mm.
healthy. That's not the issue. That's not the problem. And so I tell them, okay, okay, this is a kind of an issue of the proofs in the pudding. If you were eating healthy, you would be healthy. If you were actually eating healthy, you wouldn't be in here talking to me and seeking my help with health issues that you're experiencing. And so there is again a lot of educating, and there's a lot of pushback that I get from people, and a lot of people, some people get upset that I'm talking about diet, nutrition, um, and but it's, to me, I'm okay with it. I don't, first of all, I don't take it personally. Second of all, I know that not everybody, just like with anything in life, not everybody is gonna want to do what you're offering, and that's okay. But I am able to get through to a certain percentage of the people that I'm meeting with, the potential clients that I'm meeting with, who do agree to, okay, well, let me give this a try. Let me see if this works. And whether it's people who have been on a garbage junk food diet, or people who think they're eating healthy and think that their nutrition doesn't have anything to do with their mental health issues. So there are people who do agree to try, and they get better, very much so, and very quickly. And I know that I'm going to be reaching a certain amount of those people and really helping them change their lives. And so it's worth it to go through
Mm-hmm.
nonstop explaining the same thing over and over again, where
Yeah.
people just think I'm absolutely crazy for talking about nutrition and mental health and talking about diet and foods. And so it's worth it to me, because I'm going to get through to some of those people, and I'm going to be able to help some of those people and get them back on track, get their lives back on track, get them back on their feet. And I've helped many people do that. And so that's worth, you know, all of the
Yes.
difficulty and challenges in bringing up this topic, and trying to educate potential clients about the need to look at diet and nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention. With regards to your question, so the main reason why there's so many people with chronic health conditions today, physical, mental, metabolic, is because we're not eating how our physiology has evolved over millions of years to eat. So we're eating all these foods, quote unquote foods, which I don't even consider to be foods, because a food is something that fuels and nourishes your body, and a lot of these processed foods don't fuel us, don't nourish us, don't provide us with any of the sustenance that we need. They're just empty inflammatory calories. And uh, so we need to get from eating these fake foods, which didn't even exist 50 or 100 years ago, and eat more in line with how humans have been eating and thriving for millions of years. So, what I like to tell people is, eat the foods that a human would have eaten 50,000 years ago during an ice age, right? There are ice ages
Love it.
for millions of years, up until about 15, 12,000 years ago, shortly before the agricultural revolution started. So, you want to eat what a human would have been eating 50,000 years ago. So that's really at the core uh,
Mm.
of why we're experiencing this explosion in
Yeah.
health problems, chronic health problems, this health crisis that's just getting worse and worse and worse, is because we're not eating real human food.
That's the bottom line. Bottom line is where the food that we're eating now is making us sick, and that's the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Um, I can only imagine what you go through, just client after client, and explaining this to people. Like you said, people are not connecting the dots here. They're not connecting nutrition, food with mental health, and I believe that's gonna change, but it's gonna take a lot of us to really spread the message. And again, like, I want to reiterate, because if you wait for somebody to come and save you, if you wait for the news to tell you what to do, wait for the government to tell you what to do, that's gonna take a lot. a long, long time for them to be able to get their act together, and we might not be even alive when that day comes, right? So if you're somebody who is struggling, get to research about what is optimal for you, right? And everything's available online, and you can try everything else, right? And you can feel it right away if it's working, if it's not working. If it's not working, then move on to the next, right? But if it's working, then that's your cue that what you're learning from these outlets, these media outlets, the government, what the government's telling you is not true. A lot of it is a lie, and a lot of it is filled with agendas, right? And get to the root cause, take advantage, take control of your own health. Don't even listen to anyone else. Just do your own research. Be your own experiment. Do things that you would feel it. Like, you wouldn't get to 30, 40, 50 years old without having to know what foods do to your body. Like, when you eat something, do you feel like great, or you feel like garbage, right? It's easy to tell, right? Man, there's a lot of educating, like you said, and love everything that you said here. Just ridiculous sometimes. It's laughable sometimes. For my last question here, current treatments like psychiatric medication only work with specific neurotransmitters. We've talked about this earlier, and the reason why the ketogenic diet or the carnivore diet is so healing is because it affects neuroinflammations as well. Not only affecting with the medication, it only affects one neurotransmitter, and with these conditions, right, for some of these severe mental illnesses, you would need more and more medications to relieve your symptoms, right? Because it affects multiple neurotransmitters. It's just interesting to hear that these treatments have a lot of limitations, and again, not to mention the fact that it comes with withdrawal syndromes that you can't even get off these medications. And just I've had a few people on the show that talks about when they were on medications, it was hard to get off, and then when they went on the ketogenic diet, their brain just healed. Like, their cognitive function came back. It was just amazing for them. How about you? Have you ever worked with somebody who was on medication, and did you ever help somebody get off those medications?
Oh yeah, I've worked with a number of people, a lot of people who have been on psych meds, and yeah, a good number of them have been able to taper down and off their medications. Um, to be honest, I don't know exactly how many, and that's one of the things that I like about this line of work is, as opposed to psychotherapists and psychiatrists, I don't manage my clients' symptoms. And, for years and years and years, they don't stay a client of mine for years and years and years. They're a client of mine for a month or two. And then I part ways with them because their issues have been resolved and they're feeling, much, much better. And so I, don't usually, every once in a while I hear from a client. So, shoot me a text and let me know how things are going. But I don't usually hear from most clients. So, the tapering down and off process of medications is a process that takes some time. So, I don't know exactly how many or how, things went. But what I know is I work with people for a month or two, get them feeling and functioning much, much better. And but I do know that, and I have had a number of clients tell me that they've, been able to reduce their dosages and, come off medications. And this not only psych meds, but other medications as well, blood pressure medications and so forth that they've been taking. So, and as you mentioned, it's, it's a pretty quick process. The brain and the body are pretty amazing in the capacity they have to heal and to heal quickly. When we're, again, fueling and nourishing them properly and not inflaming and poisoning them. And that's one of the things that I tell clients is that you don't have to change your diet and wait for 6 months or a year or a couple of years to see if you're experiencing an improvement. Do it for a month. Like most people start to notice. I mean, even before a month, most people start to notice after only a few weeks an improvement, a significant improvement. But certainly a month, you don't have to do it longer than a month in order to know if this is going to give you results or not. And that's because most people start to experience an improvement, by the end of the first month. So that's the nice thing is that it's fast, it works quickly, and yeah, there's no real side effects or harmful things that can happen. But there's no real side effects to eating healthy foods and cutting out garbage processed foods. There's only an upside, even though some people go through a little bit of a transition period during the first week or so, where they might have some GI issues. They might have they might feel a little bit of fatigue, but yeah, there's no real, negative downsides to eating well. So yeah.
What does a typical treatment plan look like, and how do you work with your patients to ensure that they're eating the right way, and how do you support them throughout that process?
Yeah, so we look at a few different things. We look at what the person's health status is. So in addition to their mental health issues, what if they have any physical health issues, any metabolic issues, any digestive issues, any food sensitivities or allergies, things of that nature, and then what they're willing to do, because not everybody is willing to to be super strict, go carnivore. And so, we work with the person if they have any limitations or specific needs, and and we go from there. We craft a nutritional plan that suits their needs and that's going to enable them to be able to do it, to implement it, and stick with it. But one that's going to be effective as well, and one also that's going to take into consideration digestive issues. And digestive issue and food sensitivities and so forth. So we come up with a nutritional plan, let them know what foods to focus on eating, which foods to avoid, meal plan ideas, recipes, and then we go through lifestyle changes or improvements that they can do as well, and also talk about exercise, working out. Exercise plays an important role in our mental health as well. So I have the one type of client is that I work with are clients with mental health issues, but I also have other clients that I work with whose main goals are improving their fitness levels, improving their body composition, losing excess body fat, improving energy levels, stress levels, things like that. And so it's a similar process for them. But the plan might be a little bit different as their goals and their health status is a little bit different.
That's great, and that's a lot of information here, guys. So make sure to check out primalwellness.me on the website. Where can they find you, Asher?
Yeah, so like you said, my website is primalwellness.me. I'm on Instagram at Primal Wellness, and I also have a natural tallow soaps and skincare product that's called Spearhead Soaps. So that's at spearheadsoaps.com. So those are the main places where you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Asher, for coming on and sharing your story here today. I am just feeling hopeful for a lot of people. The stories that you told here was totally amazing. And again, if I heard these stories when I was struggling, it would have been such a game changer for me. It would have been such a lifesaver for me. And so that's the goal for this show, is to share these stories. Hopefully somebody can pick up on it and hopefully change your life, right? So thank you so much, Asher, for coming on again. And all the links for Asher will be linked down in the description box below. So you guys check that out. I highly recommend him. And if you need any help with your mental health, if you're in Vegas, do you have a clinic in Vegas, correct?
Yeah, I have a clinic in Vegas where I meet with people
Mm,
in person, face to face, and I also
mm.
work with clients all over the world through
Awesome.
video chat, through Zoom, and things like that.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story here, sir. I truly
Thank,
appreciate you.
thank you for having me. It was great speaking with you.
All right.